In the ancient Near East, scribes wrote that order keeps the world from falling into chaos. Surely, when they wrote that, they weren't expecting half the population to be running on chewy beer and temple smoke. Beer, also known as liquid bread, builder's brew, and payday porridge, was perfected just in time to fuel massive labor in Egypt and Mesopotamia by the leading powers of the Bronze Age. Those river kingdoms were truly the greatest impetus to date for legal, priest-approved, as well as household back-alley use of plants, resins, and potions on a civilization-wide scale. Welcome to Wacky History, and today let's find out how beer, lotus, and poppy helped build empires long before pharmacies had aisles. Why did these substances dominate? There's no doubt about the widespread use of work drinks and sleepy plants by Egyptians and Mesopotamians. But the trend was set by the rivers, Nile and Euphrates, long before other regions copied the habit. While elite ideology praised moderation and ritual purity, ordinary life didn't mind a practical shortcut. If it kept you hydrated, soothed pain, and calmed the belly, it wasn't vice, it was wisdom. In fact, temples and estates promoted liquid bread as a righteous ration for workers. While strong intoxication was frowned upon on duty, beer was touted as a miracle staple as soon as it appeared in clay jars. The daily cup had a poetic connection to order itself Ma'at in Egypt, Tupu in Mesopotamia, because a hydrated, pain-managed workforce kept the world running, and that played right into the bureaucratic obsession with stability and output. While straight wine binges were a festival thing for elites, lotus wine and poppy juice were helpful for calm and sleep. Blue lotus blossoms were a small shortcut to turn rough evenings into soft, dreamy nights. As one sage might put it, we don't need idleness, we want only the strong and the steady. And thus, sensible drug use became a synonym for being capable and keeping order. However, the push for better drugs didn't come from a shadowy dealer. It came from kitchens and temples. Brewers and perfumers knew from experience that bitter herbs go down easier in beer or wine. Egyptian physician scribes noticed willow eased aches. Temple perfumers noticed kifai soothed the chest. Discovering that wine dissolves resins, this led healer scribes to experiment, and they managed to standardize a close cousin to a pharmacy: recipes. Those recipes later would inspire medical writers who became classics. At that time, estates and temples in both lands were effectively research labs. They came up with brand-adjacent names of their own, kifai for the famous incense syrup blend, and a toolkit for pain and sleep that includes poppy, mandrake, and henbane. Not modern, but it worked. Beer and lotus became the people's escape. Thanks to agricultural abundance and temple administration, beer and mild sedatives became well known within a few generations. Beer was wildly popular and could be obtained without a priest's blessing. Your daily ration did the trick. You could even get herb-loaded brews, medicine steeped into drinks so patients wouldn't spit it out. But the most important use was yet to come. As cities boomed, public works exploded: canals, walls, roads, along with funerary complexes and more. Their efficiency has since then been a leitmotif of history studies. Academically, success is attributed to administration, writing, and logistics. But there was more to it. The households left little to chance. Everything was meticulously accounted for: grain weight, labor quotas, and when and how to dose performance-helping substances. Across seasons, people consume beer as hydration, honey and resin salves for wounds, willow for pain, and lotus wine for calm. Beer reduced water risk and heat stress, honey dressings kept cuts cleaner, lotus took the edge off, while poppy was reserved for serious pain. And kifai, the temple blend of wine, honey, raisins, myrrh, frankincense, and aromatics, worked as incense and cough syrup. Market stalls and storerooms were strewn with jars, cones, and packets, and their consumption became a way of life. According to later compendia, entire households relied on these remedies at one point. It may be easy to laugh now, but kifai as we know it today was never meant to be mere perfume. It was also medicine you could sip. Scribes and perfumers ran the PR, a casual remedy. The world was hard. Floods, droughts, taxes, corvée labor, and court politics. So what a better time than now for beer and incense, offering vigor, efficiency, and calmness, to enter the chat and be welcomed by the masses with open arms, onboarding everyone to Stamina 101 and Mindfulness for Peasants. It was cheap, helped people work, spread a little euphoria, and wasn't considered a vice when used right. How did these substances change their daily life? Following the experience of physicians and perfumers, drinks and drugs were woven into routine rations and temple rituals. Effects showed up quickly, workers could grind through heat, scribes could focus longer, while patients finally slept. Healers aimed to defeat pain and infection with honey, resins, and vinegar, aiming to defeat fear with lotus and prayer. Opal marched miles, carved stone, and kept watches with fewer sick days and calmer nights. Field tests? Absolutely. Scribes recorded cases in one of two ways: a disease I will treat versus a disease I will not treat. They also created dosage rules like take in beer morning and night. Those notes cleared the path for widespread household use that likely saved lives in numbers we can't count. So who got what then? Not everyone drank the same cup. Workers and soldiers got beer and onion/garlic tonics, cheap, reliable, morale-friendly. Elites sipped wine, sometimes lotus wine, and had better access to imported resins and stronger poppy preparations. Temples acted as gatekeepers. They controlled incense stocks, dispensed kai-fi, and kept the recipe prestige high. Households copied what they could: diluted versions, local herbs, and plenty of honey. Same toolbox, different shelves. Elites sipped wine, sometimes lotus wine, and had better access to imported resins and stronger poppy preparations. Temples acted as gatekeepers. They controlled incense stocks, dispensed kai-fi, and kept the recipe prestige high. Households copied what they could: diluted versions, local herbs, and plenty of honey. Same toolbox, different shelves. Law and order. When the cup crossed the line and tripped over its own 2 feet. Intoxication on duty, that's how you lost pay. Or even worse, overseers didn't care if your medicine came in a nice jar. If you were supposed to haul stone or keep watch, you stayed sharp. That's why Posca-style vinegar water and dilute beer were standard. Festivals and funerals were the exception. Drink, smoke, sing, and sleep. But tomorrow, you showed up sober or you met the stick. Why were incense so important? Big nights meant big smells. Burning kai-fi wasn't just for vibes. It set the tempo, slowing breathing, slowing speech, and creating a room that felt safe. People coughed less, slept easier, and believed the gods had taken their offering. Call it psychosomatic, call it pharmacology, the result was the same. Calmer people, fewer fights, and better sleep. Trade and supply. From river mud to medicine cabinet, none of this works without logistics. Barley and emmer fed the beer machine, bees fed the honey shelves, caravans and ships hauled myrrh, frankincense, cinnamon, juniper. Bad harvest, your medicine got weaker, interrupted trade, your incense got scarce. Healers adapted, swapping one resin for another, stretching doses thin, and sweetening the mix with dates to disguise the downgrade. Ancient pharmacy was only as strong as the next flood, the next tax, or the next caravan. So how did these concoctions look in the recipe books? A typical instruction reads like this: grind myrrh and frankincense, mixed with honey and wine, warm, strain, then take in beer morning and evening. Or another example, add a seed's worth of poppy juice, then add wine until he sleeps. Measurements lived in a world of handfuls, beans, and cups, not milligrams. That's why the same cure could be a lullaby for one patient and a fever dream for the next. Experience was king. The good healers kept their own notes, what worked, what didn't, and even who lived. So how and why did this system shift over time? Nothing in this universe is as benevolent as beer and lotus were promising to be. The kit had side effects. Early notes mention over-sedation, hallucinations from nightshades, and spoiled brews. This instigated further caution. Some ingredients became festival only or doctor only. Strong stuff wasn't illegal so much as impolite. Save it for real pain, not I'm bored of bricks. So did everyone behave? Absolutely not. Some hitched their wagon to Poppy, some took a mandrake nap they didn't wake up from, a few elites courted disaster with lead-sweet wine. Bans? Cute. Short-term gains laughed in their face. There's also a resource angle. If households got hooked on strong resins or imported spices, that could stress supply for temples and courts. So it's entirely possible that custom and rationing channeled the good stuff toward the places that needed it most. By the later periods, everyone knew the trade-off: better sleep and pain relief versus dependence and risky dosing. Receipts and results. The day-to-day results are plain: fewer infections with honey dressings and resin salves, better hydration with beer and vinegar water, calmer nights with lotus, pain muted by poppy when knives came out. The biggest downside was dependence and variability. Plants change strength by season and region, so a standard dose could smack one person and do nothing to another. When supplies ran thin, withdrawal and relapse symptoms caused chaos in hard-pressed households, including nausea, anxiety, sleeplessness, and strange dreams. I wonder if anyone ever encountered the quote-unquote hat man that people say they see today. Healers tried to taper or swap herbs, but the kit cut both ways. The ancient pharmacy shined in ordinary times and backfired when abused. It wasn't a miracle, just burning the candle smartly instead of at both ends. Temples and households made huge profits in the only currency that mattered: labor saved and people's lives extended. Tell us in the comments, how different do you think Egyptian and Mesopotamian history would look without beer rations, lotus wine, and honey dressings? If you enjoyed this deep dive into chewy beer, lotus calm, honey bandages, and temple smoke, hit subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching Wacky History.